And we're back. We're rolling.
All right. So we got to David and Barry's house. Barry is his wife. And he took Grandfather in right away. And he gave him a colonic and fasted him with just water. And he was trying to, clean his system out.
Now, is the wife named Nora still alive, or she passed on?
Oh, I don't think she's still alive. They were the same age. But she did
But
live.
I mean, at the end of Grandfather's life, was his wife still living?
She lived for a couple more years after that.
Oh, she outlived him.
Yeah.
But she must have been younger.
A year.
She means she lived into her hundreds also?
Oh, sure. It's very common with traditional people.
Yeah.
So we get to his house, and then he did the colonic with David, and then he juiced up some fresh wheatgrass juice and was giving him shots of the wheatgrass along with water. And by the next day, Grandfather was feeling much better, and David said, well, let's do a treatment on him out in the yard. So he took his massage table out into his yard in this beautiful place, a lot like this, around Flagstaff. Beautiful trees and everything. And we were pretty close to the San Francisco Peaks where the Kachinas live. And the Kachinas live up there from the beginning from summer solstice until winter solstice. They live up in the peaks. That's their home. And then...
Well, now, what are Kachinas?
What?
Talk about what does this mean? Kachina.
The Kachinas are their spiritual representatives of... How can I explain this?
I mean, are these living people living in bodies, or are they more like spirits?
Well, they put when they do their Kachina dances, they are Hopi people who put on the costumes of the Kachinas. But they believe that, when they do the ceremony and they put those costumes on, that they're actually embodying that spirit. And there's many, many different Kachinas. They're really beautiful. There's a black ogre Kachina and the Mudheads and the Corn Mother and all these wonderful Kachinas. I've been to a lot of the ceremonies, and some of them are 4 days long. Really amazing. So,
so you're talking about David, and he's doing these ceremonies, and then
we brought out the massage table out in his yard.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cool, and it was a beautiful day, and David was feeling better, and he was laying on the table. And so what we did was a aura cleansing, and David Milgram was at Grandfather's feet, and I was at his head, and we worked through all the chakras from the first chakra with the red color, sending it up to me, all the way through his body, through his head, and then I would send it back all the way to his feet. And we did that with all the chakras, with all the colors of the rainbow. And he was feeling better and better, and he was singing and laughing. And he's like, oh, here come the Kachinas. I see them. They're wearing their cedar ruffs. They wear these, they make like a halo of the cedar and wear it around their neck. He says, they're wearing their cedar ruffs. And they're coming. The Kachinas are coming. And then he'd say, oh, listen to the water. The water's running everywhere. And he could hear and sense the water table running under the ground. There was no exterior creeks or anything like that. It was all right underground. And he just, was sensitive to all of that. And then that next day, he was really feeling better, and he was starting to eat healthy foods again. And David would tell him, don't eat the Bahana food. You eat good Hopi food, just the good Hopi food.
Bahana?
Bahana.
Meaning the progressives.
Right. Well, no, not the progressive Hopis, but the Bahanas are the whites. And they represent the European materialistic ones who came over and started taking over. So it was an amazing day. Oh yeah, and that next morning, Angel was just a little toddler then. She couldn't even walk yet. And
Angel is your daughter, right?
right, she's my youngest daughter. I have 5 kids, 2 boys
Well,
and
now,
3
are
girls.
you mean Angel accompanied you to Flagstaff?
Yeah.
And she was what, 2 years old?
Not even. She was about 1 year old.
Oh.
Couldn't walk yet. And David put her on his lap, and he was singing to her. And he has a lot of like funny powwow songs that he does.
Uh,
And I have a audio tape of him singing some of these songs, and they're really funny. And one of them is "Wanna go to the movie with me." And he would joke around about a lot of stuff. And he actually did go to the movies one time and saw the sci-fi photo of the day the Earth stood still, that movie, way back. And he loved it. And the space beings came, and they were very mellow and helpful and everything. But the government was all freaked out and wanted to just, blast them and kill them. But it was really a nice sci-fi movie.
oh, I've seen it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a creature in it named Gort.
Ah, yeah.
I can't remember. There was special words that the lady was supposed to say. Ulu, Ringo, Kochu, Gort or something. And then Gort saved the spaceman. Yeah, that was a good movie. So Grandfather David saw
Loved
that movie.
Yeah, he went to see that, and he really loved it.
Well, the message in The Day the Earth Stood Still is very similar to the prophecy rock, actually.
That's right. Yeah, it definitely is. So I could think of a few more things to say.
So
but
is that so? Just to finish up, what after 3 days in Flagstaff, you brought him home?
Yeah. And then we took him back home again.
And was that the last time you saw Grandfather
That was
Dave?
the last time I saw him, because I moved up to the Puget Sound, and I was there for 3 months, and then my friend, who was a nurse, and I decided that we were better friends and partners. So on my 40th birthday, we went to a World Beat celebration band on Vashon Island. And on that particular day, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 40. What am I doing? I got a lot of things I got to do. It's not to be on this island. I need to get back where there's all white people. It bothered me that there wasn't a community of Hispanics and Indians and stuff. So I left there and headed over to the Okanagan. The barter fair was happening, and ran into Sonny and Barry and all the crew. It was my first barter fair in Tibor. And then I went and helped out, worked for Tibor for a couple weeks with the harvest at nighttime, and worked on it. And then I went to Missoula on my way back to New Mexico, and Sonny was in a position where she really needed some help. She was going to school, she was working 2 jobs, and she's getting her nursing degree. And she and Barry were just splitting up, so I figured I'll stay for a while and wash dishes and do her laundry and whatnot. And that was now 30 years ago. So.
Well, now, how did you learn about Grandfather putting on the cloud mask?
Oh, my friend David Milgram told me. He called me and let me know when it happened. And it was just less than a year after I went up to the Northwest.
And so did Grandfather die a peaceful death? Did he just go into sleep?
I believe so.
And he was living with the daughter that was the progressive at that time.
Right.
And his wife, Nora, outlived him in a couple more years.
Yeah.
So, were there any other, you made all these trips to Hopi land, were there any other elders that you became close to, that you met through David and on your visits over there?
Yeah, the grandmothers, especially. I didn't know all their names or anything, but that was a real highlight, getting to go down and gather the salt cedar with them. That was super nice. And I I met different people, other different Hopis. I went to many of the Kachina dances. I got to actually was invited to the bean dance ceremony that happens in February, and invited to stay in the kiva all night long with the elders, and that was just fantastic. It was so beautiful, and the kivas, they have a wooden floor, but it's hollowed out under it, so it's like a big drum, and the ladder that the Kachinas come down is really tall, and it goes up through a hole in the top of the kiva, and it extends for a long, long way to have that beauty of the going up into the heavens. And the people that were observing it, we would go down this path and then go in a door. But the Kachinas always came through the top, through the hole in the top. And this one particular ceremony was really beautiful, and it's about the beginning of life coming back. So it was in February, and they actually germinate the bean seeds, and that's part of the ceremony. And they also, every time they're doing a ceremony, they're also preparing pahos and doing different things for the ceremony that will be 6 months from then. So they're always, working with this incredible cycle of life and how it all goes. So it was really fun. I was down in there, and I had to sit on this bench and take up as little room as I could, and I was squished in between the Hopi grandmothers, and it's just a hard bench, about like this rock. And all night long, you had to sit very quietly. You should not go out and take a pee or do anything like that. You just sit quietly and listen. And when they came down, they had this incredible drum. It was like a water drum, and the elder doing the drumming would sit right at the bottom of the ladder, and then the Kachinas would come down, many of them, maybe 10 to 20 Kachinas, and they would be dressed in these beautiful costumes. And the first ones that came in were all covered with white eagle feathers, and they represented the spirit of the bean plant. They represented the spirit, and so they would get in these long oval lines and sing this incredible chant with the drummers, and it was this almost like a reggae kind of beat, and a lot of young Hopis really like reggae, and I think it's with the Kachinas, when they're singing it, it's like the heartbeat of the Mother Earth, because it's a very long, this repetitive and beautiful singing that you can just feel that the beating of the of the drums and of the hearts, and really wonderful. And so then they go up the ladder, and the next group comes in. So all 7 kivas, each kiva had their own role, and they would go around in different costumes and all. And so they would go around and go up and down the ladder about every 20 minutes, half an hour, until, all night long, all 7 of the Kachina, groups of Kachinas had come in and done their ceremony. And so it went all the way till dawn. And it was just exquisitely beautiful. And they believe that the drumming goes down all the way into the center of the Earth Mother. And you could feel it, the power of that. They would pray, and the drums and the voices, they were just sending that love down in the very core of Mother Earth. And then the energy of the Mother would come back. And as each of the progressions, the first ones who were the spirit with the white feathers, as they were in 2 lines, and they didn't touch hands. They were like this as they went by. And then for the next 6 ones, each time the next group came in, their hands would be a little closer, until finally they were holding hands, and they represented the further stages of the bean plant. And then the costumes were different. They got more colors in them, and and the touching represents the germination of the seed and the growth of it. And this is to protect and to pray for a good harvest of the beans and corn and squash and melons were some of their main crops.
So, any more on that, or I've got another question.
Okay, no, that's good.
So, do you have any insight as to how it is that this Sister Pukalani got to know David in the first place and identified him as this leading Hopi elder and came to invite him to Rainbow? I mean, it seems like the Hopi of all the Native American tribes, it seems like the Hopi are the ones that we in Rainbow are the closest to in terms of prophecies and spirituality. Do you have any insight or knowledge about how?
Well, she was just lucky. She got to be around David earlier. She must have, um, like I understood and heard about him at the Rainbow Gathering, but other people, if you go up there and help out, or where you're with other Native people, that, you can get connected. So, yeah, he loved being uh, pampered a little bit and waited on. It was really fun for him. And yeah, Pukalani was wonderful. I don't know if No Guns was helping out with him too. She might have been.
And were any of the other? David's the only Hopi elder that actually visited the gathering.
The only Hopi elder.
The only Hopi elder.
We've had Lakota elders
Right.
remember at the Arizona gathering, Papa San Eastman came and did the sacred pipe ceremony with everyone. And this is just an interesting note. But when Papa San Eastman just, he came into the gathering, didn't know anybody, he was just checking it out. He walked around for the day, and he couldn't figure out what it was all about. Just looked like a party to him. So he was walking down the hill at the same time I was. I had to go down the hill and get something out of my
This
car.
was Arizona 79?
Arizona 79.
And he was Lakota?
Lakota.
Uh-huh.
Papa San Eastman. Very respected. And so we just, started walking together, and on the way down, he was asking me some questions, and I was asking him things.
Now, how old a man is this?
He was probably in his 50s.
Uh-huh.
So when we got down to the bottom, instead of leaving, he turned around and walked back to the gathering and did that ceremony with us, the sacred pipe ceremony, with all the young women holding the pipes, and it went on for hours and hours and hours. It was really an amazing. You remember that, don't you? On the 4th.
I remember in 1978, Oregon, there was a lot of Native Americans that were active on the 4th. Is that what you're talking about, or are you sure it was 79?
Oh, yeah, I meant 78.
Yeah, 78, there was
Oregon. Yeah,
a large presence of Native Americans, and I didn't know what tribe they were from, but I remember they were very, it seemed like they took over half the afternoon there, right in the middle of the gathering.
We were very, very fortunate to have Papa San Eastman come and honor us with doing that ceremony.
Uh-huh.
I don't think a lot of people understood the significance of that. It did take a while. Ceremonies take a long time.
Yeah.
And there were thousands and tens of thousands of us there.
So I'm curious, when you would go over and you're hanging with Grandfather over there at Hopi land a few times a year over the course of 10 years, did you get any, what would you call it, blowback or any negative vibrations from any, especially these progressives that were like, oh, who's this, these rainbow people that are befriending our elder and coming and visiting? Did you catch any vibes like that from any of them?
Not so much. But I did have a difficult experience one time. I had a flat tire, and there was I can't remember his name now, but he and his wife lived right off the highway. And he had a business towing vehicles and, going and get wrecks and stuff like that. And I had a flat tire, so he towed me down to his house, and he says, hey, you can come spend the night with us. Him and his wife. And I said, well, thank you very much.
And he's another Hopi
Another
person.
Hopi.
Yeah. But not like an elder type.
No, he was, I don't know, 35 maybe.
And would you consider him a progressive?
He was a progressive.
Uh-huh.
Very much so.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, the house was decorated with all kinds of beautiful Hopi art and stuff like that, but it was also, very American looking in there. And he was complaining about the Hopis that were traditionalists and that they, weren't getting into the modern world. But he was making money, he had his own business. And then Dan Kachungave was one of the elders. He wrote a book called From the Beginning of Life to the Day of Purification. And he was the Sun Clan leader. And he actually passed in 1972.
A Sun Clan leader.
Yeah. He was a Kikmungwi of the Sun Clan.
Is that a clan of the Hopi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Grandfather was in two clans, Pumpkin and Lizard. Well, this brother, he wasn't in a clan, but he was, did his whole towing thing. And they were proud to be Hopi, but at the same time, they're part of the prophecy, and this is really important, is that there are special markers that are stone markers that are buried under the ground in Hotevilla and other villages. And those stone markers are very important and should never be touched or moved or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional people don't want electricity, they don't want TVs, they don't want any of that stuff. They want to keep their traditional way, and they've tried so hard. Well, I was spending the night there, and he started talking. I asked him, I says, "Oh, have you ever heard of Dan Kachungave?" Because I'd read that book. I actually had a copy. It's a little pamphlet like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Dan Kachungave. Oh, man, I was so mad at him. I was out there. I was digging the lines for the utilities going into the villages. And he stood in front of my dozer, in front of the pit, and he says, I wanted to just pick him up with my, what do you call the things, the little digger,
yeah,
and throw him into the pit.
Uh-huh.
And I was like really horrified that he would say something like that. He just became really angry because, he didn't want the traditionals doing that. He wanted to make money digging up the village and putting in lines. And part of the prophecy is if that happens, that's going to create a lot of problems. And look what it's done to, the civilized nations in general. What we've got now.
Do you have the prophecy rock diagram over there?
Yeah.
Wasn't there didn't you show that on here one of those lines was showing where some of the Hopis were going over to the
materialistic way.
Yeah, which line was that?
Right up here.
That's
this
what
is
I thought.
Line, the time of going
the line
to
between
and fro.
the second and the third. What are those called?
The great earth-shaking events.
What are these, circles or?
Yeah.
And so this guy was one of the ones that was on that line going up here to the with the progressives and the whatevers.
And then some of the progressives during that time came down and started living a traditional life again.
Right.
And I'm not sure if this is only for the Hopis or for all of us, really.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and this is something that's really cool. One day I was up there, and I was hiking around a little bit behind the prophecy rock, and I came across a little rock that had a Kachina pecked into it. It had a pictograph, and it was a Hopi woman. And the Hopi women, they are depicted with a square head, and the men with round heads. And she had a helmet on, and she was sitting inside of this classic little UFO with the dome, top and bottom, and then the sides coming out.
This was another pictograph that you came across?
Yes.
Somewhere on a hike near the prophecy rock.
Mm-hmm.
So this area near Hotevilla had lots of pictographs of various sorts that you could tune into.
Mm-hmm. But that one is the most important and the most famous one, the prophecy rock.
But the one with the UFO, did somebody show that to you?
No, I just you
just saw it and you said, "Oh, there's a UFO." Huh?
Yeah, a Hopi woman pilot.
Okay. Anything else on our list that?
This relates to that because At the first gathering, 77, at the New Mexico gathering.
Yeah, 77.
Jason and I were working a lot with the Forest Service early on, and other people too. And we also got to know some of the neighbors who lived around there, and there was a professor of archaeology who lived just south of the site. And he offered to take us on a hike around to look at all the pictographs with him. And we did. And most of them were up on the mesas up above. And we came up to this rock. It was really big, a big rock, flat, a lot like the Prophecy Rock. And there was a Hopi Kachina woman. And she was full size, as big as a human.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a square head. She had moccasins on that were wrapped and fringed. She had a dress on, and she had one hand out like this. And right above her hand was a platter. And next to her, even taller than her, was this magnificent multiple-headed sunflower plant. And she's holding it under one of the flower heads that's loaded with seeds, and then the seeds are dropping into her platter. So when I saw that, I went, wow. And then the other thing that we saw that was a Hopi sign was they would mark when they did their migrations, the 4 different migrations, which took thousands of years. The first one was just a circle. The second one was a circle with another one around it. And then the third was 3 concentric circles. And the fourth one was 4 concentric circles. And that's how they marked their territory when they moved around. And there was one right nearby there with 3 circles. Boom, boom, boom. So they lived there during their 3rd migration. And David said, we lived here before. This was our land. But now you are here. And this is your land. And you should take very good care of it. So that site we had was Hopi land. The Hopis had lived there, definitely. So
and he knew this, even though this was few hundred miles from his home. He knew this land where we were gathering.
Yeah, maybe he remembered. Maybe he remembered,
Well, had he ever been there before?
I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But he rode on horseback for several miles from the parking lot all the way down to the teepee circle with Antelope, a young Aleutian boy, riding double behind him.
Well, we got a minute left. Any final thoughts?
Well, I would highly recommend people to get this book. I think it would help you a whole lot in understanding what's going on, and it's very, very important that we work for peace with all our hearts and souls and minds, because we need to be together, to love one another. And, Grandfather, all I want is for all the children everywhere to drink the sweet milk of the Mother Earth. That was his most beautiful thing he said.
All right. Signing off then in the Santa Fe National Forest on May 24th in the year 2018. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Feather Sherman.
You are so welcome, Henry the Fiddler.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. More stories later.